Welcome to the World Test Championship Predictor Show. For that, we are using our World Test Championship Predictor. The link to that will be in the show notes, of course. But essentially, we wanted to go through all the different series and have a look who was going to win and who was going to lose. Maybe shuffle some things around a little bit to see who is most likely to end up in the finals. Of course, we've sadly, because of the World Test Championship final being like very recently and everything else happening, we didn't actually get a chance to do this. So 2 series have started, but you're just going to have to get over that. You're going to have to handle it. The results are already on the board. We are so late to doing these predictions that there is one series that is already over. I think I probably would have gone Sri Lanka 1, Bangladesh 1, if I had a chance here, or Sri Lanka 2. So either way, with the draws, it's really hard. I'm mostly going to leave draws out of my predictions here, unless I think that there's a reason to, and I don't think there are many nations left on Earth who do draws. I have traveled the cricketing world, and so I've collected 2 things: the phone numbers of random taxi drivers and overseas SIM cards. Rideshare apps have fixed the first part, and Sally is doing the second. Now, all you need is their eSIM on whatever plan works for you. You activate it, and you can use it anywhere in the cricketing world. It helps you save money. It is a global solution to a global problem. Stop fiddling with tiny SIMs and get the one that does it all. Go to Sally.com Good Areas and use the code Good Areas to get an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. Fly free with Sally. So I don't need to do anything for the first 2 tests because England won one of them and India won the other one, right? I think the easiest thing for this particular series is to say that England wins 3-2. I don't think there's much between it, especially with India winning that last test. But right at the moment, I think I'm just going to go keep it as simple as possible and just say that England should win the 3rd test, India should win the 4th test, and England should win the 3rd test. And if you're the sort of person who's in the comments and you're like, well, actually, they're playing, we're kind of taking the pitches a little bit out of this. We're just looking for a general score of what is the most likely thing to happen in this series. And at the moment, that's basically what we think it's going to be. Let's have a look at another series that has already started as well. Australia versus the West Indies, or in the West Indies, I should say. Australia's won 2 of those tests so far. The West Indies have actually played quite well, but I think considering the fact that they keep falling apart, you could argue that the West Indies could steal the test match. But I think at the moment, when you're 2-0 up, you're most likely to win the next one. So let's go with Australia to win that one as well. And let's give them that series 3-0. The following series is India versus the West Indies. It's at home in India. So let's just be easy here. We'll give one test to India, and then we'll give the other test to India as well. See how much fun that can be? Now, Pakistan versus South Africa. I've been thinking about this for a long time because it wasn't that long ago that this series probably wouldn't have been a very interesting one. And now it's fascinating because of everything that Pakistan's been doing at home and the sort of cricket that South Africa's been playing. I want to give this series 2-0 to Pakistan, but I don't think you can, right? I just don't think that's right. I think the safest option and the smartest option is 1 test to Pakistan and 1 test to South Africa as well. So let's just go there. South Africa then also to India. I'm a little bit split on this one, but I don't think it's fair to just give the 2 tests win automatically to India. But at the same time, I don't know if I back South Africa enough to win this. I'm going to go India 1 and India 2, but we're going to come back and we're going to have a look at that later because that's one of those series that I think is a little bit harder to predict. I mean, all things are hard to predict. In fact, this entire thing is absolute nonsense, but it'll give us a good idea of who has a better chance of getting through to the final. So let's move on to New Zealand hosting the West Indies. I think we have to be honest here and say that New Zealand, and West Indies to steal a test match, is it? Hello. Didn't see that coming, did you? I just think with West Indies bowling attack, I really like it in those conditions. I think they're a chance of winning a test there. I don't think this is going to change the overall rankings. But again, we can play with it later. Now we have the Ashes. Oh, this is so much fun. Well, of all the series that I've been asked about, it's probably this one. Simon Mann from the BBC, we were sitting down watching the cricket the other day on the balcony and we were having a chat. And he was like, gun to your head, what's the score in the Ashes? And if you'd asked me before this West Indies series, I think I would have said Australia should still win 3-2, maybe even 4-1. Watching Australia bat in this West Indies series and knowing that the wickets are more than likely going to be similar again, I find it much harder to do that. So with Simon Mann, I picked 3-2 to England. I still don't believe in England's bowling attack all that much either, though. So I'm going to go now 3 to Australia. So let's just go 1 to Australia, 2 to Australia, 3 to Australia, and then let's go 4 to England and 5 to England as well. I think that's fair at the moment. We might want to switch that later if we see that England have a chance of making it to the World Test Championship final, because I think that's very fair as well. Our next series is Bangladesh versus Pakistan. So this is obviously Bangladesh hosting Pakistan. I think so, all things considered here, I'm just going to give one of these tests to Bangladesh and I'm going to give the other one to Pakistan. Hey, that's it. Easy, easy as you like. England are hosting New Zealand next year. Now we're starting to struggle a little bit, aren't we? Because these are a long way away. And, you know, England could lose this series to India and lose the Ashes and be completely different by the time, you know, people like Pope and Crawley, they might have changed their bowling attack, Shoaib Bashir. Everything could be very different by that point. But it is England at home. And I think they still, and I'm not completely bought into New Zealand unless Matt Henry goes absolutely crazy. But I'll give them one test. I'll give New Zealand the first test, and then I'll give England the second and England the third. I think that seems fair. Next series is West Indies versus Sri Lanka. I think Sri Lanka have more than enough weapons to take a test off West Indies. Do I think they have enough to do two? No, I don't. I will give the first test to the West Indies, and I'll give the second test to Sri Lanka there. Now we have Sri Lanka hosting India at home, and I find this very fascinating because, again, this is a long way away. So India will have played England by that point, and they will have played South Africa by that point. They're going to Sri Lanka. I think with their current batting lineup, and I'm more than happy with their bowlers, how much do I rate Sri Lanka, though? I'll tell you what, I'm going to give one test to Sri Lanka and one test to India there. But again, that's the kind of series we might come back to later if we need to change things around a little bit. West Indies are hosting Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan have played better cricket of recent times. I don't want to go too much on form, but there is an element of them actually playing good cricket again. I think that's a 1-all series. I'll give one to the West Indies and I'll give one to Pakistan as well. I don't know how happy I feel with that. England playing Pakistan, though, and hosting them. I think you have to be pretty honest there. I'm going to have to go 1, 2, 3 to England at that stage. Yeah, I'll go 3-0 there. Unless Shaheen Afridi comes back or Nazim Shah finds his form again, I just don't see how they can steal a test match in England, unless the pitches are really dry and things change a little bit. But at the moment, I'm going to go for England in a clean sweep there. Then Australia head over to South Africa. Oh, I had completely forgotten this series happened. I don't know what Australian team will be turning up to South Africa, whereas I'm fairly confident of South Africa. So I think if you were just going based on the teams we know at the moment, even though South Africa's just beaten Australia, I think you could probably say 2-1 to Australia. But by that stage, Hazelwood could have retired, Lyon could have retired, Usman will be out of the side, and I mean, he could have retired as well. I don't know what their batting lineup is going to be. If you look at that compared to South Africa, I think South Africa more or less know what their side's going to be. So I'm going to go South Africa, but Australia should still win a test match there, even if we don't know that much about them as a team. All right, South Africa then host Bangladesh. Okay, I like Bangladesh, but that's probably 2-0 to South Africa. I don't think we need to spend a great amount of time on that. Maybe Bangladesh with their fast bowlers somewhere else could do more damage, but I'm not sure. It's South Africa right at the moment. Then Bangladesh hosts the West Indies. That is an interesting one. I think I'll give that 2-0 to Bangladesh. I need to see more of West Indies in Asia to change my mind. Of recent times, they've played some good cricket at times in Asia. I think Bangladesh should be able to get over that. Then New Zealand host India for 2 test matches. The revenge series, the grudge match. I think in that one, let's give New Zealand 1 test and let's give India the other test. It's a long way away. I don't really know what New Zealand's team's going to be, but India certainly has a good enough side to win in New Zealand. But because it's away, let's not give them both of those tests. I think that's fair. Pakistan versus Sri Lanka. not that long ago, I think I would have given this as 2-0 to Sri Lanka, but I'm going to go one for Pakistan and one for Sri Lanka there. I think that seems fair. Both of them have more than enough weapons in that situation. And then England travel over to South Africa. Oh, this could be a juicy one towards the end. Let's just quickly have a look at the points table. Oh, so at the moment we have Australia and England up top. That is very, very interesting. And then we have India and South Africa just behind them. So on percentages, there's not much between India and England, but South Africa is a little bit further back. Okay, interesting, interesting. Shall I go back over here for a moment? Okay, I think based on having watched both of those teams of recent times and feeling a little bit more comfortable, as I did before with South Africa, knowing what their team is going to be, well, at least more of what their team should be by that point, I'm going to go South Africa, and then England. I'll give England one of those games as well. Then we've got Australia, New Zealand. The problem with the Kiwis, of course, is every time they go to Australia, they're absolutely terrible. And they've got a 4-test series. Do we give that as 4-0 to Australia? Both of these teams are maybe the biggest mystery teams in what they will be. This is so far into the future. I just don't think I can give that as 4-0 to Australia, being I know so little about who might be playing by that point. I think it will have to be Australia. Let's pop a draw in there. I know I haven't done many draws, but we're going with one draw. It's very unlikely we have a draw in Australia, but we're going to go one draw as well. And then we'll go New Zealand. I don't know how happy I feel about that. Anyway, let's keep it there for now. Right after that, New Zealand plays Sri Lanka. I would say by this stage, neither of those sides are that close to qualifying, but perhaps Sri Lanka is not a million miles away. I'm going to go one test to New Zealand and one test to Sri Lanka. I really like Sri Lanka's bowling attack. I think they should have played better in South Africa than they did. Maybe a slightly younger side in some ways as well that I feel a little bit more confident with. Yeah, I'm not massively keen on that, but I'll go 1 New Zealand and 2 Sri Lanka. And then we have India versus Australia in a 5-test series. I think you have to be honest here and say by that stage, who is Australia going to have to play spin? It's possible by that stage, even Smith is not playing, right? And if Khawaja's not playing, who's their best player of spin less than that side? They've got Head will still be around. So they'll have what? Green? Who else will be in that side? We can't give Australia many test matches. All right, let's go India, 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 and because they do seem to find a way and they will think about the series for a long time, then we'll go Australia. I think that's fine. I think I'm more than happy with that. England head over to Bangladesh for a couple of tests. Let's just go back to the points table again and have a look at where we have England. So England at this stage are not far behind South Africa. And then we have Australia slightly further back here. So that's getting quite tasty. So Bangladesh versus England. I mean, Bangladesh will just look at what Pakistan did surely and just decide to go with very spinning wickets. So let's go with Bangladesh 1, England 1. I feel, I don't know if comfortable or confident. I don't know how you can actually predict this far ahead. I mean, anything could happen. The whole planet could be overrun with giant cockroaches by this point. Anyway, Australia hosts Bangladesh for a 2-test series. I'm pretty confident with that one. No matter what the Australian team is, I'll go Australia 1 and Bangladesh. Sorry, let's go Australia 1 and Australia 2 on that one. They'll win that series 2-0. Now, let's just pop back into the points table for a moment here. We currently have South Africa second on the points table. I reckon I did this before the World Test Championship, and I don't think I had them this high. So some of this is maybe recency bias, but also and that's recency bias of how well South Africa's played, but also some questions I have about what England and Australia will be and New Zealand will be in the next little while as well. So Australia we have down at 4th here, and Sri Lanka we have at 5th with South Africa 2nd. So South Africa going to Sri Lanka, all things considered, Keshav Maharaj will be quite old. I'm not sure if they have another good test spinner who's young coming through. They've got Harmer and Pete, both good players, but we're talking a couple of years on, right? So both of those guys are probably well into their 30s by that stage. I'm going to go with Sri Lanka in one test, and I'm going to go with South Africa in the other. Yeah, I'm pretty confident with that. Pakistan are hosting New Zealand. Was Williamson still playing by that time? What's the rest of their play versus spin? Got a couple of guys who are okay against it, I suppose. I'm going to go Pakistan 1 and New Zealand 1. Yeah, I feel pretty confident with that. Let's have a look at who we have in the file. India versus England. Well, this can't be right. Let's just have a look at the points table and see what we have here. India is at 66%, so they are very comfortably in it. And I have England at 57, I have South Africa at 57, and I have Australia just behind them as well, and Sri Lanka a little bit further back. Those are the teams above. All right, that means that realistically, those are the teams we want to look at. So let's scroll back to the top here. And when we scroll back to the top, we're going to just have a look to see if there's anything where we can change. Maybe I went, because that was quite quick, right? I didn't think about these things all that much. Okay, so let's just have a look here. I've given England 3 wins and India 2. What happens if we give India 3 wins and England 2, which is also a very possible outcome from here. Let's get rid of England here and let's pick India for this one. Okay, so that then drops England down to 5th. What? Oh, that's crazy. All right, let's focus on England for a minute. Let's scroll down and find our next England series. I think I was quite friendly with England here. I've given them 2 wins. They don't often win a couple of test matches in Australia. Let's give them the 3rd test back just for a moment and see what that does. Okay, so that we know that. Let's give that back to Australia again. Great. I just don't feel that comfortable giving England that extra test at the moment. I need to see more of their cricket. They're so up and down. Let's continue scrolling and see what else we can find with England. England versus New Zealand at home. I've given them 2 wins. It is possible they get Matt Henry, isn't it? But I still think the best predictions there should be England to win that series 2-0. Let's keep that for a moment. England hosting Pakistan and winning 3-0. So I've got England winning the next summer 5-0. That is interesting. If I'm going to give them a test, I think it's more likely a Matt Henry inspired one to New Zealand. I don't think I can give England a win in this series. Let's scroll to the next one. Okay, so this is more interesting. South Africa versus England. I've given South Africa 2 wins and England 1. It's a very good bowling attack South Africa has. And Marco Janssen's going to be older. Mapaka could be playing by then as well, right? I'm going to keep that with South Africa 2 and England 1. I'm not changing anything there. Bangladesh versus England. It is unlikely that they win 2 tests. Now, I'm pretty solid with that. Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with Bangladesh winning 1 and England winning 1. I'm not going to change that at all. So it does show you that England basically go from 2nd to 5th by giving 1 of their wins away. If they go on a couple of runs, which I suppose in this Bazball-inspired era, it is very possible, we could see them actually have a chance. The biggest issue with England is they don't actually seem that interested in winning the World Test Championship, and they don't seem to try all that hard to make it to the final. So I think it's still unlikely they make it to the final, but you can see that there is a path looking at that. All right, let's have a look at South Africa very quickly. Pakistan versus South Africa in Pakistan. Those wickets are going to rag sideways, right? They've got all-rounders that they could use. I don't know. I'm pretty confident with them winning 1 test match. I think I'd find it hard for them to win 2. Let's find their next series. India versus South Africa. Okay, so South Africa are playing those series back to back. Do you know what? I think I'd be more confident with them playing Pakistan if they played the first 2 tests in India rather than the other way around. India's spin with Bumrah, all-round ability and everything else. I think it's going to be really hard for South Africa to win that. I can't give them one of those tests. I'm sorry. Now, South Africa, Australia. I think I've been pretty friendly to South Africa here already. 2-1. I think watching Australia play cricket of recent times, I think you'd have to be silly to think by that stage they're just going to rock over to South Africa and beat them easily. But you could flip this over. So if we do flip this over to Australia 2-1, let's take the middle test and give that back to Australia. Where does that put them? Yeah, so then South Africa goes down to fifth. So I'm going to give that back to them again. I think that's fair. Let's give it to South Africa. I still think that's the more likely option. They're then hosting Bangladesh straight after. Both of those tests they should win as well. And this could be the big swing series, right? So let's see what happens if we play around here a little bit. Let's take the second test from South Africa and let's give it to England. What does that do to our points table if we come back across? This could be the most important one, depending on what happens with Australia. And we'll get to Australia in a moment. But you can see here, South Africa goes down to fifth and England go to second, right? The other interesting thing is, I was going to say if South Africa win 3-0, but beating England 3-0 if they're still playing baseball is quite tricky, right? Because they're always likely to get it right for 2.5 days, which makes them pretty hard to beat. Okay, let's give the second test back to South Africa there, please. So South Africa's last 5 games are really interesting because I don't think that Sri Lanka is a legitimate chance to make the points. In fact, let's just give both of those wins to Sri Lanka for a moment. Let's see if that changes anything on the points table. There we go. So if Sri Lanka win both of those games, they're an outside chance suddenly of coming in as well. So let's give that second game back to South Africa here. And that puts South Africa back into the points, into the final, right? Very, very fascinating from that perspective. So that gives us an India-South Africa final. All right. I think actually, we're going to have to look at Australia's schedule quickly, and then we'll also have a look at Sri Lanka's. So we've given Australia that last test against the West Indies. I think that's more than fair. They won both tests in that series without batting particularly well. I'm more than happy to keep them there. What's next for them? Then we've got them playing in the Ashes. If we give them, just to see what happens here, if we give them the fourth test as well, which is a more traditional sort of Ashes score, so let's go 4-1. Let's have a look at the points. Okay, that gets them back up to the finals again. Let's just see what else we can find on Australia's record from here on in, because I think there's another test we could actually find to give them as well. Yeah, so the other interesting one is South Africa versus Australia. We've got them losing that series 2-1. I'm going to keep that. I think that's a pretty good prediction at the moment. Let's move on. Now, this is the one that I've given Australia a draw versus New Zealand here. So if we take that draw away and we give Australia another win in here, what does that do to everything? Yeah, so they're still very, very solidly in the final games here. Can we go back to the Ashes for a minute and give Australia 3-2 again in the Ashes? That still has India-Australia in the final. All right, let's continue to look at Australia from here on in. Where were we up to? We just looked at the New Zealand series. So let's find their following series after that. India-Australia. I've given them one test. I think it's very hard to suggest at the moment that they have a team that should be winning more than one test in that series. So I'm going to keep it at 1. What else did they have? Australia, Bangladesh. We've already given them 2 wins there. Very hard to give them anything else other than 2 wins playing Bangladesh at home. So that gives us another India versus Australia final. I think you'd see here the margins are pretty thin though. There's some of these games, and we haven't factored in draws and rain and anything else. Let's just go with Sri Lanka because we haven't quite got them into the finals yet. But is there a way for them to get up? They're at 52%. So I've kept them at 52% quite a bit. Where's their first series? Let's be bold. It is very possible that Sri Lanka win that test against the West Indies. If you're a West Indies fan, I'm not saying you can't win. It can't be a 1-1 series, but it is also possible. I think Sri Lanka is the better side out of the two. So let's give them 1 and 2 there. And let's see what that does to the points table. Well, hello. Interesting. That gets them over 60%. Let's just have a look at the rest of the Sri Lanka series. We're not going to change anything with Sri Lanka, India. If anything, there is a possibility that they lose that. So 2-0. But let's keep going and find their next one. Pakistan versus Sri Lanka. It would be huge, wouldn't it? If Sri Lanka beat the West Indies 2-0 and then for them to beat Pakistan 2-0. That feels like a bridge too far for me. I don't think I can give them both those series 2-0. I'm willing to say that there are 4 tests and that they are a good chance of winning 3 of those tests. I don't care if it's 2-0 against Pakistan or 2-0 against the West Indies. I'm willing to give them that as an option. I don't think I could ever go and say that they would win those 2 series 4-0 away from home. And then we have Sri Lanka in New Zealand. We've already been quite friendly to Sri Lanka here, giving them a win. I like their pace bowling attack when it's fit and it's actually on the field. It's a bit punchy to give them a test here. Let's just see, if I give the second test to New Zealand, I'm assuming that just slips them back out again, right? Yeah, that takes them back down to that 50%. All right, let's keep it there. Let's give it back to Sri Lanka. They can have that for now. I'm being very friendly. So their away tours are West Indies, Pakistan, and New Zealand. I think they're going to regret something, but we'll get that back in a moment, okay? And that's it for them. Let's just go to the very top of this for one moment. This is where I think there might be a bit of an issue, right? The draw that they didn't get. So as I was saying before, I probably would have marked that down as a win and a win. And they haven't managed to do that, right? So I've been friendly to them all the way through. But if they can get 4 away wins, there's certainly the opportunity, if they're playing good cricket, to sneak away in. And we know that they've almost done that once before. It's not beyond the realms of possibilities. The one thing I would say about all of this is that at the moment, if you look at Sri Lanka, it doesn't really matter what you think of them because everything could implode or change within the next couple of years. Like it is a cricket culture that can have those sorts of things happening. If that does happen, you know, obviously Angelo Matthews is gone and everything else. I might have slightly overrated them here. So looking at the schedules as we have them at the moment, India does feel like a pretty good team to make it. They've got some good matchups at home. They've still got the ability to get a few away wins as well. I think they're a pretty good shot of making it, right? After that, I'm not sure who I feel all that confident in. There's a lot of teams that are in transition. We don't know what's going to happen with England over the next, 7 to 8 months. They might be a completely different team. Australia at the moment doesn't have any batting. They don't have any batting on the side. They don't really have any batting that's about to come into the side either. South Africa looked like a much more balanced side after they've finally started to fix some of their batting issues. They've still got some question marks. Their bowling lineup, and even if you look at their backups, should be pretty good this entire cycle. And then, of course, you have Sri Lanka, which could go in any direction, but their away series are pretty winnable if they get a good wind behind them as well. So if I was making a suggestion at the moment, I like India, South Africa. Some of that is form bias, which is, I suppose, also recency bias, right? But some of that is trying to project into the future of what will happen. Of course, South Africa could have 3 major injuries and they're absolutely terrible. And, you know, India could lose all form with their batters and things change. But right as it stands at the moment, I think if I'm picking 2 finalists, I'm going to go with India and South Africa. This has been our World Test Championship prediction show. It is a silly, silly thing to do. I shouldn't have done it, but I enjoyed it a lot. It actually made me feel anxious at times trying to work these things out so far in advance. But I've given it a go. Feel free to come up with it. If you click in the show notes, you'll find the link here. Have a play around with this yourself. It's one of the most fun things. I use this all the way through the WTC. It's a really fantastic thing, especially as teams shift and change and suddenly someone gets on a roll and everything else. It's a really cool tool and well done to the people for setting this up. They've done an absolutely great job. But I'm off to have some rest because I'm not very good at looking into the future, unlike most people. But please put in the comments who you think is going to be in the final or which team you might think has a breakout World Test Championship as well. Subscribe, share, do all those great things. Say hi to your mum for us. Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pitches. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs, and Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.